You made a way for all to enter as your love in wave after wave crashes over me, crashes over me. For you are for us,
you are, Lord.
you are not against us, champion of heaven. You made a way for all to enter in. You make me brave. You make me brave. You call me out beyond the shore into the waves.
Yes, Lord.
You make me brave. You make me brave. No fear can hinder now the promises you made.
Oh, God, your spirit makes
You
me brave.
make me brave. You make me brave. You call me out beyond the shore into the waves. You make me brave. You make me brave. No fear can hinder now the promises you made. You make me brave. You make me brave. You call me out beyond the shore into the waves. You make me brave. You make me brave. No fear can hinder now the promises you made. As your love in wave after wave crashes over me, crashes over me. For you are for us, you are not against us.
Yes, Lord. you
Champion of heaven, you made a way for all to enter as your love in wave after wave crashes over me, crashes over me. For you are for us, you are not against us. Champion of heaven, you made a way. Champion of heaven, you made a way for all to enter in.
I tell you, it's great to be with you today. We had a good time last night. Some of you couldn't be here because there's other things going on. We're in a busy world, aren't we? But hopefully you were refreshed last night, whatever you were doing. Hopefully you'll be refreshed this morning. I don't know about you, but I love refreshments. I can't help it. I love carbohydrates. Can I just share that off my heart right now? I thought about writing a book, Carbs for Christ. I mean, you know, he was born in Bethlehem. Bethlehem means house of bread. And remember the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread. Duh. Remember what he told the disciples? Pick up the carbohydrates. They had 12 baskets of carbohydrates. What do you do with 12 baskets of carbohydrates? You wolf them down for Jesus. That's what you do, I tell you. I love refreshments. And I tell people all the time, now, nothing wrong with the protein diet. You know, that's an Atkins diet. But, I mean, focus. He's dead. I'm alive. Get some carbohydrates. A lot of people don't know the last thing he said was, I wish I had a little Debbie Swiss roll cake. But anyhow, a lot of people don't know that. But he should have had one. I love refreshments. I remember when I was a kid, we'd go to vacation Bible school. I was raised in Austin, Texas, in that area, and my mother made sure I went to every vacation Bible school there was. I went to the Methodist, the Baptist, the Lutherans, the Evangelical Free Church, Church of God, Church of this, Church of that, Church of Christ. I'll even learn how to sing a cappella there because they didn't have instruments in the church. But I was in vacation Bible school. But I'll tell you one thing they all had in common. 2 Nilla wafers. 2. And a little cup of red Kool-Aid. Remember how they say, don't spill it now, don't spill it, because it'll stain the carpet. It'll stain the carpet. Well, if it stains the carpet, what's it doing to my stomach? Red Kool-Aid. 2 Nilla wafers, bunch of tightwads. Come on, give them about a half a dozen. At least. I love Nilla wafers. Not vanilla, Nilla. Nilla. You get vanilla, they're too crispy, crunchy. Nilla. Sometimes when I'm driving, if my wife's not with me, I'll reach down, have a whole box. I put them in there. And sometimes when you put them in too much, they ball up on the top of your throat. Hey, in Circleville, they ain't paying attention to you down here driving. Yeah. Is that good stuff? Look at you, you're getting happy. Look he wants some Nilla wafers right now. I guarantee before the day's over, he's going to be tempted to buy some Nilla wafers, and you're going to say, honey, you do not need any Nilla wafers. And if you make banana pudding, don't be chinchy on the Nilla wafers. Line the whole bowl with Nilla wafers. Put the pudding in, and then put some more Nilla, then pudding in more Nilla. Precept upon precept upon precept of Nilla wafers. I've always liked refreshments. And I've always liked to refresh people with humor if I can.
I'll do Billy Graham for those people that remember Billy. There's a lot of young people here that don't even know who Billy Graham is. He's 98 years old, but a great evangelist. And he preached and preached forever and ever all over the world. And I love Billy Graham. I'll always love Billy Graham. I was with him just 2 years ago when we were having a birthday party for Cliff Barras, who was the music guy, did the music. And he was just an awesome guy. And shortly after his birthday, he died. But at his 92nd, Dr. Graham, said, I want you to have my last book. I want you to have a copy of my last book.
And so I took it and put it with 3 other last books that he's given me. If he lives another year, there'll be another book. But, and that's fine. He's sort of like the George Strait farewell tour. I've taken my wife to 2 George Strait farewell tours. Look here, I'm getting on her now. Look at her. She's under conviction right now. She's probably like my wife. Oh, gosh, I love George Strait. Oh, my gosh. I said, baby, what has George Strait got that I ain't got? And you know what she said? A lot. What she said. Y'all ever seen George Strait? He ain't that big. He's thin. He got big collar. Has a big collar. And starched. His shirt's really starched. And then his blue jeans are starched with a crease in them. Real starched. You seen him? I told my wife, I said, honey, my blue jeans are starched, but when I put my legs in there, you can't see the crease anymore. I'm a husky, honey. I'm a husky. Oh, I'll tell you one thing. George Strait probably doesn't even know what Gold Bond powder is. See, some of you skinny people are going, I don't get it. I don't get that. Honey, when you're built like me, you ain't going to go to Six Flags over Texas or anywhere else like that without Gold Bond powder. If you do, the next day you'll be buying Gold Bond medicated powder. They probably still don't get it. I don't know, where's it going with that? I don't get it. Okay. Woo. My little wife, she loves George, and I took her one time we were at a concert. We were on the front. I got these tickets from Stubby Hubby or whatever people, that buy a ticket, and I buy a ticket from them. More expensive, but I get my woman right up there. And when George comes to your side, the women, if you've ever been to those things, they just got their hands up, singing along with George. And I looked at my wife. She had both hands up, and I went, good night, honey. I said, you don't raise your hands at church. If you ain't raising them for Jesus, you ain't raising them for George, honey. Man, sometimes you got to put your foot down. And she was singing, all my exes live in Texas. And I said, well, mine do too. Mine do too. She likes little George. This last Christmas, you know, I have a few connections, so I got George to sign a picture for her. My wife's name is Laurie, L-A-U-R-E-E. That's what her mother did, L-A-U-R-E-E. My wife never got a bicycle tag, never got a keychain. I'll probably be paying for counseling for that one day, you know. And I asked her mother's from Mississippi. I said, why'd you do that to her? I want everyone to call her Laurie. Laurie, and I went, well, gee, you know, but anyhow, he wrote on their picture for her Christmas deal, Laurie, 2 E's, love, George Strait. Oh my, I had it matted. Have you ever gone to have something matted? This is my first time. I said, can you mat this picture? And they did a little deal, and then we'll add this color, pick up the colors of George's little shirt, all this stuff. When I went to pick it up, you know what they charged me to mat that picture? $65. I'm going. And she goes to our church, so I was trying to be Christian. I was just, $65. Good night. After that, I'm going to Hobby Lobby. Get me a frame from Hobby Lobby. But I gave it to her, and it was worth it. Oh, she went, oh, my gosh. I said, well, I got it for you, baby. Oh. I've told my wife, I said, honey, if I die, feel free to remarry. I've always told her that. You know what she's always said? I ain't messing with another man. Just, ugh. Well, I gave her that gift. I said, honey, let me ask you something. If I died and George Strait's wife died, and if he asked you to go out on a date, would you go out with him? And you know what my wife said? Yes. I think that's a sin, is what I think. Just, oh, little George. But I like to help people laugh a little bit. And so I'll do voices. I grew up watching Andy Griffith, old Barney Fife. Oh, and he would say, oh, Thelma Lou, she's the cat's meow. Bless her little heart. This body is a lethal weapon. Mayberry, Circleville, gateway to crime. You know, I mean, was that a good show or what? And you got Gomer, hooty-hoo, golly. I mean, I'd watch that show. Ernest T. Bass, Charlene, I love you, Charlene. Oh, Mr. Darling, Denver Pyle, or yeah, he go, Ernest T. Bass, quit throwing rocks through our window. And old Barney, he's a nut. And Andy said, Mr. Darling, have you ever thought about taking the law into your own hands? And he said, we thought about killing him, but hated to take the law in their own hands. And old Barney said, oh, that's a wise man. Then he'd look at Barney and Andy, is he one of us? You know, oh, Barney, oh, sure. You know, but I'd watch that show all the time. I'd watch Green Acres is the place to be. And I'd do Mr. Haney on Green Acres. You know, help people laugh a little bit. Politics, I know no boundaries. Ronald Reagan, well, yes, no, maybe. Nancy was a great president. Bill Clinton, hey, let me just say this. I miss Air Force One. I got all the furniture, but I miss Air Force One. You know, I tell people, lighten up a little bit. You know, laugh. I love to refresh people. And so, you know, last night I was doing John Wayne. I was doing a movie that was entitled, what was the movie? Big Jake. And I was telling about it. Richard Boone was the bad guy. And at the end, Richard Boone is dying. The Duke is standing over him. And Richard Boone looks at the Duke and says, who are you anyway? I'm Jacob McCandles. And he said, I thought you were dead. And I went, not hardly. I'll have you know the preacher, when he got home last night, he couldn't sleep. He was flipping through the channels at 3 in the morning. There was Big Jake, and he stayed till the end when he said, not hardly. Why, he looks a little different wide-eyed this morning, but I loved doing voices, helping people laugh a little bit. I mean, I grew up with the Sesame Street characters. In 1969, Sesame Street began. I was in the 9th grade. I finally learned my alphabet. And so I could play football. You know what I'm saying? So, Bert and Ernie, hey, Bert, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, Bert, 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 Ernie, and Grover, hi there, I may not be very big, but I'm strong and wiry. And Kermit the Frog, Kermit the Frog here, and here is my friend Miss Piggy. Oh, Kermit, Kerm. I'm just trying to find out what level y'all are on in here. But I love to help people be refreshed. I just think it's sort of nice. And it's different for every generation. I know that. I mean, I remember it was refreshing out on the farm with my grandma and grandpa. Be 100 degrees in Texas. We'd be on that porch drinking some iced tea out of some big old jelly glasses, you know, that had grape jelly at the store. And then you finish the grape jelly and you use them as a tea glass for tea, ice in there, sweating, you know, you're just sitting out there drinking that tea. And I remember Grandma would say, that's a nice breeze I feel coming through there. And, of course, she'd say it. She didn't have a tooth in her head. She'd say, that's a nice breeze I feel going through there. And then she'd take another thing of tea. It's 105 degrees. I'm thinking, a breeze? I didn't feel nothing. But she was refreshed. Isn't that funny? Isn't that something? Well, I hope that you'll be refreshed today. I want to talk today about someone that refreshed a buddy. You and I can refresh the people we love and the people we work with. You can refresh the people that the community you live in. You are the refreshment. You are the Nilla wafer. You are that dessert. You know, last night they had these desserts. Man, these pies are unbelievable. Had meringue on them, meringue, and we grew up calling that calf slobber, but I didn't want to tell everybody that, you know. But I mean, the meringue was on that thing. I mean, you went in there and, you know, you had to eat a little bit of meringue before you got, but when you got down there to that peanut butter pie, and I had to count that as 12 snacks on my Nutrisystem plan. That was just awesome. And they kept bringing it out last night. And they even gave the pastor a plate. It was a whole pie. There was more meringue. You could not see the pie. They just took it in the car. I guess I'll have to get the car cleaned later on. I mean, just meringue. I don't know how to spell it. Don't ask me, but it's meringue. You can't beat refreshments. But the best refreshments are when you are the refreshment yourself. You know how some people can come to a party and it just sort of, you feel a refreshing wind come into the room and you're going, they're here. Oh my gosh, we're going to have fun. They are here. Ooh. And then you have some people, when they come into a party, everybody goes, oh. I mean, some people can come suck every bit of oxygen out of the room. You know people like that? And what's sad is when they don't know, they're the ones sucking it out. I mean, gosh, you know what I'm saying? They don't even get it. They come on in there. They're killing it. They're killing it. You want to just sometimes, I know it's not Christian, but take a hike. Go do a prayer walk by yourself. Go refresh Jesus. You know, I mean, golly. You know, some believers, I want to say this to them and say it honestly. Get a life. Get a life. It's almost like you're not happy unless everybody else is worse off than you. You know, and you and you know what? I tell you what makes me mad is when I'm that way. Don't you hate it when you're that way? When you are that person, and you catch yourself being, looking around going, man, I'm sure glad I'm not as bad as he is over there. Good golly, he's a bad one. Glad God's got me. There's a Hebrew word for that, bakar. Whole bunch of bull. That's what that means in the Hebrew. Both of my boys are recovering alcoholics, and they're doing good. They're on a journey. I have a book out there called No More Secrets, and it's the most transparent I've ever been, and with their permission. And secrets make you sick. But I remember Dustin, my youngest, he's 32, but I remember he'd been sober about 5 years, and he'd go to AA meetings, but I'd never asked, hey, can I go to an AA meeting with you, which was pretty good for me because I'm always so, wanting to be in everything, like, hey, I'll go with you. You need Dad to go with you. No, Dad, we're fine. But one Saturday, he was visiting us in town and said, hey, Dad, I'm going to AA meeting. You want to go with me? He said, they got a good one over there by the university. And if you're a recovering addict or alcoholic, you know how some meetings some are better than other meetings. You know what I mean? He said, this is a good one, Dad. This is a good group. This is a good bunch. This is a good bunch. I said, yeah, I'll go with you. So we walk in there, and I guarantee there's like 80 to 100 people in there. And, everybody's getting their coffee, and, shooting the bull, talking, and I'm drinking some coffee with my son. And I see some church members that I used to be their pastor, years ago. And I went, hey, good to see you. Yeah. I saw a guy that sold me my truck. I went, hey, drinking my coffee. And then, you know what my next thought was? I need to let these people know I'm okay. I mean, can you believe that? I'm serious. I'm thinking, do I need to, maybe I need to just share that I'm with Dustin. He's the alcoholic. I'm good. I don't need 12 steps. I'm good. Oh, did God get all over me? He said, you self-righteous, pious little whatever. Who do you think you are? We're all recovering from something, aren't we? Every one of us. Every one of us. You know why we don't always do the 12-step in a Bible study group? Because it's way too hard, isn't it? I can sort of spot a couple 12-steppers out there. We know who we are. And it's not easy, the 12 steps. That's why most people don't do the 12 steps. But there's nothing wrong with the 12 steps. Well, when I went in there, I was so righteous. And I've looked back on that. I guess I wasn't much of a refreshment at all. But it was great to sit there and see people refreshed, helping one another, encouraging one another. My boys love to go to AA meetings, celebrate recovery meetings. They go all the time. I'm sorry, my thought is, good night, I ain't got time. I got things to do. I'm busy. Well, they're busy too. They love it. You know why they love it? Because not only do they help others with their presence, it helps them. We all need to be a refreshment to others so that we too may be refreshed. Proverbs talks about it. Psalm says, I pray that you will be refreshed as you refresh others. We all have to be refreshed. But it's amazing when we refresh others, we're refreshed. And in 2 Timothy chapter 1, the Apostle Paul was in jail in Rome, and it was bad. Before he had been sort of just like, an ankle bracelet and, stay around your apartment, stay around your house. But now he's in jail. Now he's behind bars. Now it's about over. They're about to take his head off, literally. It's coming. the emperor I mean, they're on top of the Christians, blaming everything to the Christians. And he's in Rome, and he's alone. There was a time where he was able to witness to the guards and what have you. He was able to almost reach the whole Praetorian Guard, and those were some better times when he was in jail, able to share the gospel and the power of the gospel that was penetrating through those that ran the Roman world. But now the tune has changed, and he's isolated, and it's about over. But in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 16, he says, "May the Lord show mercy to the household of Onesiphorus, because he often refreshed me and was not ashamed of my chains. On the contrary, when he was in Rome, he searched hard for me until he found me. May the Lord grant that he will find mercy from the Lord on that day. You know very well in how many ways he helped me in Ephesus." Paul and Onesiphorus got to be buddies in Ephesus, doing the Lord's work together. It's neat to have a buddy, isn't it, men? Men, don't you like to have a best friend? You know, most men do not have 3 best friends that can keep their mouth shut. That's a fact. Most ministers don't have 3 best friends. I guarantee you. They're nervous, especially if they've ever been burned. If they've been burned by a friend, buddy, it's him and his wife, and they're not going to let you get too close. Well, I have to tell preachers all the time, listen, Jesus got burned. Only John was there at the cross with his mother. Where was James and Peter, the inner circle? They didn't show up. They burned him. They burned him. But he got over it, didn't he? He said, I got to bring them along. I got to mature them. And sure enough, Simon Peter would be the one to preach the day of Pentecost, and 3,000 were saved. The one that didn't show up at the cross. James would pastor the church in Jerusalem one day. But he didn't show up at the cross. He burned him. Men, sometimes we have to be prepared to be burned. And be patient and pray that maybe that one will come around and mature and grow up one day. Maybe, maybe not. But you keep on trusting and you keep on growing, because otherwise you become cold and cynical, and you're not very flexible or moldable anymore. You become hard and rigid yourself. We have to be broken and spilled out sometimes, many times, and to be reminded that he can make us new. I tell you, Onesiphorus loved old Paul, apparently, didn't he? He traveled from Ephesus all the way to Rome. Paul said he looked for me. He searched for me hard. It was a work. It was not easy. And he had to find him. He had to give someone a little chunk of gold just to find out where he might be, the area. Then he had to give another one a little chunk of gold for this or that. And maybe the guard a little chunk of gold. Don't tell anybody that I'm here. And I got more for you if you can keep it quiet. And he finally gets back and walks into the place where Paul is. Paul sees his buddy Onesiphorus. I mean, he's taken back. He can't believe it. He's brought with him perhaps some medicine. Maybe he's brought with him some scrolls of Isaiah, some scrolls on old parchment of the Psalms. Those are they're like bread to us, food to us. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the Word of God lasts forever. You can feed on the Word of God in that jail, and he would read those over and over again. Had many to his memory, but he would read them over and over again, reading the Word of God. He brought to him perhaps some money. In the lining of his cloak, he took out some little gold nuggets, said, "Here, use this when you need to." Prayed with him, brought him up to date. Maybe brought him some letters on parchment from the churches. You know, they passed around the letters. When Paul would write the letters to the Galatians, the Ephesians, you know, the Philippians, the Colossians, they would take those letters and pass them around to the churches and let them pass them around. They guarded them. And then they would bring them back. Our turn's next week, and they'd get to read them again. Because it encouraged him. So he brought him those letters, brought him some finances. He was there with him in person. And that's pretty awesome, isn't it? Pretty awesome. Real quick, what does it take to be a refreshment to the body of Christ, to someone that you love, someone you need to encourage, someone you need to refresh? First of all, it takes your communication skills. Some of us are better at it than others. Some of you text. You know, I can text. I text my boys, they're 32, 35. I can give them a whole paragraph. You know what I get back? K. K. Boy, that hat's going to pop somebody. I give a paragraph and I get the letter K. Whew. And, you know, I'll tell my wife, can you believe I just got a K? And, you know, she goes, now, honey, not everybody's like you, okay? Not everybody's real verbal. Not everybody's a big communicator like you. A K. I've been thinking about when I leave them my inheritance, I may just say, first of all, I just want to say K. Let them start getting nervous. Oh, my gosh, is that all we get is a K? Communicate. And you know what? Write a note. Handwritten notes are still powerful. You know, I have, well, I said in the early service, I had one place that I keep them. I have so many. I don't have just one place. I have several. I keep notes. I keep letters, and I put them in a file. And sometimes when I'm sort of melancholy and just sort of, you know, when you're on the road and you're a speaker and maybe you're a little funny or you're an entertainer, you know what you get used to a lot of times? A little pat on the back. Oh, we love that little pat on the back. Oh, you're good. That was great. That's great. You know, my wife, I'll tell my wife, baby, I said, hey, baby, I've been out here on the road 5 days or 10 days. There's times I'm getting ready in the midst of a 20-day deal. And you know what she'll tell me? And she's tough. My wife's tough. I mean, she's tough. And she'll say, honey, you know, what you're doing, that's not work. What work is what we're doing here at home. This is the real world. This is work. I'll be on the road 20 days, come home, and I'll get home, and she'll go, well, I guess you're playing golf tomorrow, aren't you? Well, I've been working for 20 days. Well, I have some things for you to do. Man. I mean, I love her, but that'll cost you, but I appreciate it. Appreciate it. There went his banana. His banana pudding. Write a note to somebody. You know, a note, handwritten note. Handwritten. Is still powerful. Write a postcard to somebody. Now, if you're going to write a note to a millennial, print. Make sure you print. Because they cannot read cursive. They can't read it. Look at them over here go, okay. Hey, there's good news, millennials. They're offering now in colleges an elective in cursive writing. Maybe they can read our Constitution one day. Our Declaration of Independence. I'm messing with you. I love you. I love you. Look at you. Hey, y'all are cool. They don't care anyway. Sometimes it takes your billfold, your checkbook, your purse, your money. When you when you are a refreshment to somebody. I'm going to tell you what, when Onesiphorus traveled 1,500 miles to Rome from Ephesus, it cost him. It cost to travel. It cost. You know, gas, airplanes, hotel, whatever. I mean, it cost to travel. And it cost him something to go up there. Now, some people say, well, he was a businessman, probably was up in Rome doing business anyway. Well, you know what? You know what's amazing? You know, aren't we we're so judgmental. Oh, well, he was up there for business anyway. Well, he was up there doing business, so it wasn't really that bad for him to stop by and see Paul. You know, there's a lot of people that might have the same thing and travel, but they didn't go looking for Paul. I'm sure he's fine. You know, I'm sure people send him money. He's probably better off than I am. Onesiphorus, he made sure he found him to see if he's okay, to see how he's doing. You know, I talk to a lot of guys. I say, how's your mom doing? Oh, she's fine. She's tough. You seen her lately? No, but she's tough. I talk to her every now and then. She's fine. Have you gone to see your mom? Well, it's been a while, but she's fine. How do you know she's fine? Get up off your lower 40 acres and go see your mother and see if she's fine. Walk around the apartment, walk around the house, go walk around the bathroom, do a little detective work. Has she put a chair yet in the shower to sit down? So hopefully she won't fall. I mean, do you know anything about that? You got bars up there that she can grab? Well, I put down one of them little rubber suction cup things down there one time. Well, was it there? I ain't been in her bathroom. That's your mother. Go check it out. Have you gotten her a walker? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she could use one. I don't know what kind to get her. Have you ever seen different kinds? There's different kinds. Well, I guess a walker's a walker. No, it isn't. You can have a walker, got little brakes on it. You can have even a little seat where you can sit down and lift up, put your stuff in there. And, man, when I started checking some of those out, I almost got one for myself. You know, when you get tired, sit down. Onesiphorus went and checked it out. He went himself. Yes, there was communication. Yes, money. But the most important thing to refresh people is this. Are you ready? Very simple. Show up. Show up. I'm going to tell on the preacher a little bit. You know what refreshes your pastor? You. When you show up. When you show up on Sunday. We were walking in here. He said, now this second bunch is crazy. I went. He said, now look at, I mean, it's sort of empty. You know, there's a few here and there. And he said, no, they're in Sunday school and this and that. And then when they get out of the buildings, come on over. He said, then all of a sudden you'll be up here and there they are. There they are. Y'all show up. And you know what? It refreshes him. It refreshes your pastor when he sees you. I can say that I pastored 22 years. When people show up, I was refreshed. When I go to speak and entertain, if there's a crowd, I'm refreshed. And hopefully I refresh you. But y'all refresh me. Isn't that something? I feed on that. You feed on me, hopefully. We feed each other. We encourage each other. You know, I did quite a few events with Art Linkletter. Now, I know he's before y'all's time, but this is sorry for the old people. Let the old people have a cookie right now. Let them have a cookie. Y'all can suck on a Nella wafer. But y'all that know Art Linkletter, I did stuff with Mr. Linkletter when he was 90, 91, 93, 95, 96, 97. He almost lived to be at 100. We were doing a big thing in Gatlinburg for about 5,000 people, and went and picked him up at the airport, and then we went out to eat, and then the next morning he would speak, and then after he spoke, then I'd take him back to Knoxville. He'd get on a plane, go back to California, and go back to his home on Rodeo Drive. All he had with him was a small, slender leather briefcase, the kind you just sort of pull apart, sort of expand apart. And you know what he had in there? A pair of underwear, a comb, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. He traveled light. We were eating that night before the day he was going to speak, and I finally said this. I said, Mr. Linkletter, you own 52 corporations. He owned the largest sheep ranch in Australia. I said, what are you doing coming down here to Gatlinburg to speak to these senior adults? Surely it's not for an honorarium. You live on Rodeo Drive. Why do you do this? You know what he said? I love an audience. That's what he said. And you know what? I do too. You know why? Because you refresh me. And hopefully I refresh you. Onesiphorus was a refreshment to Paul. And Paul says, I pray that his family will be blessed with much mercy because how he has refreshed me. Let me tell you something. When you and I are a refreshment to people, you know what the repercussion of that is? Your family, your personal family being blessed. Now, if you're not into your family being blessed, well, don't be a refresher. The mercy was to go to his family. Paul said, let me read it again to you. He said, may the Lord show mercy to the household of Onesiphorus. Not just Onesiphorus, the household, his family, his influence, the people he touches that are close to his family. May they know mercy and blessing. I'm going to tell you something. If you want your family to be blessed, you be a refresher to others. I don't know. God just works that way. He said he was not ashamed of my chains. I like that. I didn't get to comment on the early service about this, but I sort of got you here, and you know, where are you going to go? All right. He said he was not ashamed of my chains. Now let's get real here. You know there had to be some believers that probably said something like this about Paul being in jail. Are you ready? Well, he brought it on. He brought it on himself. You know, he had to be so bold, and he was so bold about everything. If he'd laid low and just, voted and not said anything. But, oh, no, he's going to step out there, and that's what you get. He's in jail. You know, he went out there and protested, held a banner. So, sometimes you get what you get. Aren't we believers something? Onesiphorus was not ashamed of the chains that he was in. The chains because he shared the gospel. The chains because he was taking a stand with Christ Jesus. Oh, there was a time when Paul said, Lord, I'm ready to come on home. And the Lord said, listen, I'm not ready for you yet. And remember how he had to go through, it's better to be absent from the body and present with the Lord. But for now, God wants me to be absent from the Lord and be present with the body of Christ, because right now I'm more useful to him that way. But when the day comes when you are chained, like Simon Peter, he said one day, he said in John 21, he said, Simon Peter, there's coming a day when you won't be in charge of yourself. Simon Peter, there's coming a day when someone else will stretch your arms out. And Simon Peter, there'll be another day when someone will control your destiny and not you controlling your destiny. My friend, he was in chains. But Onesiphorus wasn't ashamed of his chains. There's all kinds of chains. Are you ashamed of some of the chains that maybe, your son or daughter's an alcoholic? Are you ashamed of those chains? Or do you love them? Doesn't mean you have to enable them, but do you love them? Are you ashamed of I'm not telling anybody. I remember my first son, his deal. Okay, I got one recovering alcoholic, but then my oldest son, he was better at hiding it, and we had to do an intervention on him and what have you. But then I said, Lord, I got both my sons are recovering alcoholics. I'm batting 1,000. Good night, Lord. Couldn't it? And why me? I've never addicted to drugs or alcohol, never spent a day in jail. My boys. Then, I get self-righteous again. I said, Lord, I never embarrassed my mom or dad. I kept the Swanberg name good, and I never, I never embarrassed them. And then you know what he said to me? Have you ever hurt me? Yes, sir. How many times? Thousands. Well, why don't you hush? Right. I almost did my Forrest Gump, said, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. Aren't we so holy? I remember when a buddy of mine got in trouble with the IRS. I led him in the midst of it, though. What was good about it, it sort of broke him, and I got to lead him to Jesus in 1994. So we had to do 5 months in the federal penitentiary. He owed $28,000. I know people that owe $1 million, $2 million, and nothing happens. But he was a realtor in town, so they wanted to make and that's fine. I told him when he went to prison, I said, it's going to be your seminary. God's going to grow you big time. And he now leads our men's ministries. Unbelievable. We started with one group in 94. Now we have over 50 different men's groups that meet for breakfast or lunch in West Monroe, Louisiana. Isn't that something? And the one who's been behind that is John Ray. He's like a Chuck Colson. I love old John Ray. Let him to the Lord. But you know what he remembers that I don't remember? You ever have friends that remember stuff on you that you don't remember? He remembers this. I told him when he was going through all that, took 3 trials before they got him. I told him, if you'll let me know, if you're going to have to be out on the courthouse steps and the newspapers are going to be there, if you know something like that could be happening because of whatever, you contact me. I'll get off my lower 40 acres. I'll drive over there and I'll get in the picture with you. So you'll have the pastor of Dennis Swanberg, First Baptist Church, West Monroe, Louisiana, West Monroe, Duck Dynasty land. I knew the Duck Dynasty boys when they were ducks. I'll get in the picture with you. And he remembers that to this day. He said, I'll never forget it. And what's funny is, I don't remember saying it. Isn't that something? But he remembers. He remembers. He remembers. Sometimes it's not always what I remember, but what you remember, what my loved ones remember. Last illustration, and we'll close. When my dad died 5 years ago, Floyd Leon, I love my daddy, Floyd Leon. I mean, he's quite a guy. You know, he didn't care a lot for praise music, and I've enjoyed our praise music. And I said, I'll call him, Dad, how's everything going at church? He said, well, they're singing them praise songs again. I went, Daddy, just lighten up. Well, you know what I'm saying. I know, Dad, just work with. He said, it brings the young people, though. It brings the young people. Well, good. Okay, let it go. Love my daddy. I miss my dad. It was October the 28th when he died 5 years ago. When I was got to the funeral there in Austin, I was up there by the casket, had my hand on my dad's hands. You know what's funny? As you get older, you'll notice your hands will look more and more like your dad's hands most of the time. It's a weird kind of thing. I'm getting them little splotches on my skin, and my skin's getting loose. If I go to the public bathroom and they got that big heavy-duty fan, my skin on my hand looks like little waves coming in at Gulf Shores, Alabama or something. You know, just going, you know. Tide's coming in, tide's coming out. You know what I mean? Gosh, you know, my skin. And now, you know, if my arm, if I nick myself a little bit, I bleed so easy. You know, just like my dad's arms, I'm going, dadgum, I'm crossing over, man. You know, I mean, it's a bummer. But anyhow, I'm down there and I have my hands on my dad's hands and looking at my dad. Then I look up the aisle, and there's John Ray, my buddy. He drove 7 hours and 30 minutes to be at my father's funeral. He brought with him Pat Williams, one of our other golf buddies, Dix Johnston, and Joe Thomas. And I'll tell you something. I will never, ever forget it.